You are proud of your exhaustion. You wear your burnout like a badge of honor, showing off your dark circles and your missed dinners as if they were medals of valor. You have already lost. You've been told that the harder you work, the more you'll achieve. But look around you. The world is filled with exhausted people who have nothing to show for their toil but a mortgage and a master who finds them replaceable. Hard work is not a virtue. It is a sedative. It is the lie the architect tells the bricklayer to keep him from looking at the blueprint. You think you're climbing a ladder, but you're actually running on a treadmill, and the person controlling the speed is laughing at your discipline. If you don't stop grinding and start calculating, 2026 will be the year you finally break. Not because you didn't work hard enough, but because you worked too hard on the wrong things. You've spent your life believing in a meritocracy that doesn't exist. You think that if you put in the extra hours, if you're the first one in and the last one out, the universe, or your boss, will eventually reward your loyalty. But your brain is betraying you through a biological glitch known as the effort heuristic. This is the psychological tendency to value something based on how much work went into it rather than the actual result. Your ancestors needed this to survive lean winters, but in the modern arena of power, it is a fatal flaw. When you work yourself to the bone, your primitive brain signals that you are earning your place. However, the social reality is the exact opposite. By being the one who does everything, you signal to the tribe that your time is cheap and your energy is infinite. You become a utility, not a leader. You are the air conditioning, essential when you're gone, but completely ignored as long as you're functioning. Most people make the mistake of thinking that being good is enough. It isn't. Being good makes you a target for those who are being strategic. You know the feeling, the frustration of seeing the person who works half as hard as you get the promotion, the recognition, and the respect. They aren't lucky. They understand a set of rules you've been taught to ignore. Niccolo Machiavelli was not a villain. He was a realist in a world of delusional optimists. He understood that the gap between how people should live and how they actually live is so wide that he who neglects what is done for what ought to be done will rather learn his ruin than his preservation. We are going to dissect 9 laws of strategic leverage that will turn your effort into a weapon rather than a weight. But be warned, this is not self-help. This is self-conquest. This knowledge is irreversible. Once you see the strings of power and the futility of mindless labor, you can never go back to being a happy puppet. If you're not ready to kill the part of you that seeks validation through busyness, leave now. For the rest of you, welcome to the desert of the real. Law 1. The Law of Strategic Scarcity. The most primitive desire of the human ego is to possess what is rare. Value is not determined by utility. It is determined by availability. Think of the air you breathe. It is the most vital element for your survival, yet it has zero market value because it is everywhere. Your hard work and constant availability have made you like air. This is because the brain operates on the principle of habituation. The more someone sees you, the less they perceive you. Machiavelli knew that familiarity breeds contempt, while distance increases reputation. In practice, this means you must stop being the reliable one. When you are always there to pick up the slack, you are training others to devalue your contribution. Here is how this works in real life. Stop responding to non-urgent messages instantly. Create blackout periods where you are unreachable. When you finally do appear, your presence carries the weight of an event rather than the nuisance of a habit. Picture this. A manager asks for a volunteer for a tedious project. The hard worker jumps in immediately, hoping for praise. The Machiavellian stays silent. By the time they are asked directly, they negotiate terms that increase their visibility rather than their workload. The paradox is that by doing less, you are perceived as doing more of what matters. Law 2. The law of the lion and the fox. Strength without cunning is merely a target for those with brains. Most people approach their careers as lions, trying to roar their way through obstacles with sheer force and volume, but the lion is easily trapped. Machiavelli wrote, "A prince must be a fox to recognize traps, and a lion to frighten wolves." This works at a neurological level because the human brain is wired to resist direct pressure but succumb to subtle influence. Your brain interprets direct hard work as a threat to the status quo of others. When you push too hard, people push back. The fox, however, understands the path of least resistance. This means focusing your energy on the 20% of activities that control 80% of the outcomes. Instead of trying to master every skill, master the people who have the skills. In practice, this means building a network of lions who will fight for you while you provide the fox-like strategy. Imagine you are in a high-stakes meeting. The lion argues his points with passion and exhaustively detailed reports. The fox asks 2 surgical questions that expose the flaws in everyone else's logic, then offers a solution that makes everyone feel like it was their idea. The lion worked harder. The fox won the room. Law 3. The law of invisible leverage. The moment you do the work yourself, you have reached the ceiling of your potential. True power is not found in what you can do, but in what you can cause to happen. This is the law of the arms of others. Machiavelli observed that a wise prince never uses the troops of another unless he has a way to make them his own. In the modern context, this is about delegation and the creation of systems. Your brain is a processor, not a storage unit. If you spend your processing power on low-level tasks, you have nothing left for the high-level strategy that actually changes your life. This is why you fail. You are addicted to the feeling of being busy. You must dismantle the ego that says, if I want it done right, I have to do it myself. This is a slave's mantra. Here's how you apply this. Identify every task you do that earns less than your desired hourly rate and find a way to automate, delegate, or eliminate it. If you earn $50 an hour, but spend 2 hours a week doing $15 an hour admin work, you are literally paying $70 a week for the privilege of working harder. It is an act of self-sabotage. The Machiavellian response to a heavy workload isn't to work faster, it's to find a way to make the workload irrelevant. Law 4. The law of perception as reality. Everyone sees what you appear to be, but few experience what you really are. The world does not reward you for your work, it rewards you for the perception of your work. This is a brutal truth that the honest hard worker refuses to accept. Neurologically, humans suffer from the halo effect, where one positive trait, like the appearance of success, colors every other perception. If you look like a winner, people assume your work is high quality. If you look like a stressed, overworked mess, they assume you are struggling to keep up, regardless of your actual output. Machiavelli advised the prince that it is not necessary to have all the good qualities, but it is very necessary to appear to have them. In your daily life, this means curating your signals. Do not talk about how busy you are. Talk about your results. Do not show the behind-the-scenes struggle. Show only the polished, finished product. Picture two employees. One sends emails at 3 a.m. to show dedication, looking exhausted the next day. The other arrives well-rested, delivers a flawless presentation, and leaves at 5 p.m. The first is seen as a liability who can't manage time. The second is seen as a high performer who makes greatness look easy. Effort is a cost. Results are the profit. Hide the cost. Law 5. The law of calculated absence. Absence makes the heart grow fonder, but more importantly, it makes the price go up. In economic terms, this is the law of supply and demand. If you are always available, your supply is infinite, and therefore your price must drop. Machiavelli understood that a prince who is always among his people becomes common. Robert Greene notes that too much circulation makes the price go down. Your brain interprets scarcity as value. When you are the one who is always putting in the work, you are flooding the market with your presence. This brings us to the tactical application. Use absence as a tool. When you have achieved a significant win, disappear for a short period. Let the vacuum of your absence allow others to realize how much they rely on you. If you are in a relationship or a business partnership, don't be the one who always initiates contact. Let the silence do the work. The reason this works is that silence forces the other person to fill the gap with their own projections and anxieties about your value. They will begin to sell themselves on why they need you. The catch is that you must have delivered high value before the absence, or you will simply be forgotten. Law 6. The law of virtù versus fortuna. Most people are victims of fortuna, the chaotic, uncontrollable winds of luck and circumstance. They work hard and hope that fortune will smile on them. Machiavelli had a different approach. Virtù. This isn't moral virtue. It's the prowess, the energy, and the skill to bend fortune to your will. He famously said that fortune is a woman, and she must be beaten and struck to be kept under. This means you must stop reacting to the world and start architecting it. The hard worker reacts to the tasks they are given. The architect creates the tasks that lead to the goal. Your brain is naturally reactive. It wants to answer the email, solve the immediate problem, and put out the fire. This is a trap. You are spending your virtù on someone else's fortuna. To win in 2026, you must prioritize proactive leverage. Spend the first 2 hours of your day on the one thing that makes everything else easier or unnecessary. If you are not working on your own goals, you are by definition working on someone else's. This brings us deeper into the realization that busyness is often just a form of laziness. The laziness of not wanting to do the hard emotional work of choosing your own path. Law 7. The law of necessary ruthlessness. To build a cathedral, you must be willing to clear the land. Hard work often fails because people are too nice to say no to low-value distractions. They allow their time to be nibbled away by the ducks of life. Small, nagging tasks, and people that offer no return. Machiavelli understood that sometimes a surgical cruelty is required to prevent a greater disaster. In your context, this cruelty is the ruthless protection of your focus. This is about opportunity cost. Every time you say yes to a mediocre task, you are saying no to a world-class opportunity. Here is the tactical application. Audit your life for energy vampires. This includes people who drain your time with gossip, projects that have stalled but you feel obligated to finish, and habits that provide cheap dopamine but no long-term growth. Imagine someone asks for just 15 minutes of your time to pick your brain. The weak response is to say yes to avoid being rude. The Machiavellian response is, "My schedule is committed to high-priority projects right now, but you can send an email with your specific question." Protect your time as if it were your lifeblood, because it is. Law 8. The Law of the Result. The world does not care about your process. It only cares about the outcome. There is no prize for most effort expended. This is the hardest pill for the hard worker to swallow. They want credit for the sweat, the tears, and the long nights. But Machiavelli knew that in the actions of all men, and especially of princes, one judges by the result. This is because the human brain is wired for efficiency. We want the maximum reward for the minimum effort. When you emphasize your effort, you are actually highlighting your inefficiency. If you tell someone, "I worked all weekend on this," they don't think, "Wow, how dedicated." They think, "Why did it take them so long?" To apply this, you must become outcome obsessed. Before you start any task, ask, "What is the specific, measurable result this produces?" If you can't name it, don't do it. In practice, this means delivering results that are so undeniable that the method becomes irrelevant. When you win, don't explain how you did it. Let the mystery of your ease add to your aura of power. The more effortless you appear, the more people will believe you have a magic touch. Benign. The law of the sovereign. The ultimate goal of all strategy is sovereignty, the ability to act without needing permission. The hard worker is always seeking permission. Permission to take a break, permission to get a raise, permission to be successful. The sovereign takes what they want and lets the world adjust. This is the integration of the lion and the fox. It is the understanding that rules are for the people who need them, but for the architect, rules are merely suggestions or obstacles to be navigated. Machiavelli noted that those who have become princes by their own virtue and not by fortune have more difficulty in acquiring their kingdoms, but less in keeping them. This is because they have built their power on the only thing they can control: themselves. This brings us to the final tactical shift. Stop looking for a fair game. The game is never fair. Instead, look for the leverage points where your minimal effort produces a maximal shift in the board. 2026 will belong to those who realize that the hustle is for the pawns. The players are at home, thinking. You're listening to this thinking about how to use these laws on your boss, your competitors, or your colleagues. But you're missing the point. The need for constant hard work and the desperate desire for control over others comes from a place of deep-seated fear. You work hard because you are afraid of what happens if you stop. You are afraid that you are not enough without the doing. Carl Jung said, "I would rather be whole than good." Most of you are trying to be good workers, good citizens, and good people, but you have repressed your shadow, your capacity for strategic aggression and healthy selfishness. Techniques are useless if your soul is fragile. You must integrate your monster. A harmless man is not a good man. A harmless man is just a rabbit who hopes the wolf isn't hungry today. A truly virtuous man is a monster who has his darkness under voluntary control. You can only wield these laws if you don't need them to work. This is the paradox of outcome independence. When you stop caring about being seen as a hard worker, you finally gain the power to be a winner. This requires the death of who you are now, the person who values themselves by their exhaustion. It is a painful transformation. The world will try to pull you back into the herd because your sovereignty makes them feel insecure about their own chains. Imagine a version of you 1 year from now. This version of you isn't tired. This version doesn't have a to-do list a mile long because they have mastered the art of delegation and leverage. This version of you moves with a quiet, lethal confidence. People don't ask you to do small favors anymore. They ask for your opinion on big moves. You have become the architect of your reality, not a puppet dancing on the strings of an employer's expectations. The old you stayed late to finish a report that no one read. The new you spent that time building a system that automates the report entirely. The old you apologized for not being available. The new you makes your unavailability the most expensive thing about you. The old you begged for a raise. The new you created a situation where you are so vital that they beg you to stay. You will lose friends. Your family may not recognize this colder, more calculated version of you. There is a loneliness that comes with sovereignty. This is the tax you pay for greatness. You have a choice: the comfort of the herd or the freedom of the wolf. You cannot have both. Start today. Audit your schedule for the next 24 hours. Identify one hard work task that provides no leverage and delete it. Watch what happens. The world won't end. In fact, it might finally start respecting you. If you're still here, you're part of the 0.01% who have the stomach for the truth. Most people turn this video off the moment I challenge their work ethic because their identity is too tied to their suffering. Subscribe not to support this channel, but to make a contract with yourself. This is your commitment to stop being a tool for someone else's empire and to start building your own. We are just getting started. The rabbit hole of dark psychology and Machiavellian mastery goes much deeper than this. We don't teach you how to fit in. We teach you how to transcend. Welcome to the inner circle. I'll see you in the shadows.